Hey folks, I'm Karel here from Data Dusers. Today we're going to use Tableau to build this dashboard. Here we're going to be tracking the coronavirus new cases in the whole world. We're going to do a month-over-month comparison to see whether the cases have improved or got worse. We're going to look at the trend for each one of the continents, and then we're going to see at the top 5 countries with more cases reported for each of the countries and how they changed from one month to the other. This could be a good fit for you if you need to build something similar or you need to track the period over period change of any metric. So let's build this. Here I have my data source. This is the COVID data provided from Johns Hopkins University. I only left here the fields that I'm going to be using, all the fields that are a lot. If you have this data source or you can get it, please go ahead and do it. There are a lot of interesting fields here that we can also use, but we are going to focus on the new cases reported. First, we want to see the continents. So let's bring the continents here to the rows and let's put the new cases over there. And let's see how this looks. This is going to be global, there are no filters here. And if we sort this, we're going to see that we have one continent as null. So we're going to exclude that because this is probably some kind of aggregation they are doing by countries. And they're putting null there in the continent. So I'm going to exclude this one. And now I see my 4 continents there. My 6 continents there, and the total cases they have reported since this data set is being captured. What I want to see really is the difference that the current month has compared to the previous one. So let's add the date here, and let's take a look at this at a daily basis, and let's pick a line chart there. Okay, so let me put the continents back in the rows so I can see each one independently, and that's okay. So that's going to give me the full trend since February 1st, 2020, which is the first data point that we have here, until April 26, 2021. Now, I only want to see the last 2 months and compare one and the other. So, let's bring the date to the filters and let's choose a relative date. Let's keep the last 2 months, which are the only ones that I'm interested in. And now I'm going to have data from March 1st until today. So this is going to give me a linear trend of the 2 months. But what I want to see really is a trend for each one of the months, so I can actually compare those in the same date frame, right? So the way I can do this, I can bring the date over here to the colors, and I can switch it to months, and then if I change the aggregation here by day, then this is kind of what I want to see. Let me change this. Let me add a table calculation, a running total, because that's what I want to see. I don't want to see the daily trend, but just a cumulative trend. And now this is what I want. But if I do this every time a month changes, then the color is going to change as well, because I'm coloring by the month name. So what I want to see is if the current month had more cases reported, then I want to see that line in red, indicating that it got worse. Otherwise, I want to see it in green or blue, and that's actually going to highlight visually the current trend. So I'm going to get rid of the months here in the colors, and I'm going to keep my day in the date, because that's exactly what I want. I want to see this broken down by day. But I need to add some calculated fields to achieve what I want. So first I'm going to create a calculated field to have all the cases reported only for the current month, and I'm going to do the same to get all the cases reported on the previous month. So let's do that. Let's create a calculated field called cases month to date, and this is going to be the formula that I'm going to be using. I'm going to say if the month of my date equals the month of today, so it is the current month, April in this case, and the year of the date equals the current year, then I want to count the new cases, otherwise I'm going to count 0. And this is going to return the new cases for the current month we are at right now, otherwise it's going to do 0. So when I aggregate this, then I'm only going to get the count for the current month. So that is going to be one of my calculated fields, and then I'm going to duplicate this one, and I'm going to edit, and I'm going to change this to give me the cases of the last month to date. And I'm going to copy my formula here, my new formula, which is very similar. Let me take this down so you can see it better if you're replicating this on your end. So I'm doing the month comparison, the year comparison on the previous month, and making sure that I'm only counting until the current day, the 26th in this case. Okay, now I'm going to remove this field from here. I'm going to add my cases month to date, my cases last year to date. I'm going to switch this back to a line chart, and now I'm going to create a dual axis here, and I'm going to bring my continent back to the view, and that is that. So I'm going to hide this header. I'm going to switch my date to be the continuous, so I can see actually this as a continuity. And now I'm going to add my table calculation, the running total here, my running total here. So now I have a lot of colors, so I'm going to remove the colors from here, the color from this axis. Okay, so this is closer to what I want. Let me edit this axis here, delete the titles, and also let me make this axis independent so I can see better the distribution here. Okay, that's better. Now if you notice, today is 27th, as I mentioned, and the data here runs until the 26th. So even though in the calculated field I limited the count, still my days are counting up until the last day of the month, because I don't have any kind of filter limiting that. That's why you see a straight line on the last days from the 26th on. So I need to add a filter to cut my days on the 26th in this case. So for that, I'm going to create another calculated field. I'm going to name it as exclude remaining of current month. So what I'm doing here is, if my date in my data is greater than the previous day, then this is going to return true, else is false. So I'm going to click OK to create my calculated fields, and I'm going to add these in the filters. If it's true, I want to exclude it. And now, as you can see, the data runs up to the 26th for both months, so that's what I want. Now I need to add some labels to describe a little bit what I'm looking at here, and also I want to add some colors to make it easier to read. So let's begin with the labels. And what I want to see here is not just the total cases in the period, but just the percent variation, because this is easier to read. If you're looking at, I don't know, a couple of millions over there, then the math is harder to do than if you are looking at a percentage. So let's build that. Since we already have the total number for the previous month and for the current month, what we need to do is just find a number that is going to tell us what's the difference between the two. So for that, we're going to use a level data calculation. Let's just name this as percentage difference, month over month, month to date. That's the number I'm going to give to my label. And the function that I'm going to use here is a level data calculation. In this case, I'm using an exclude because I need to aggregate by all the dimensions that I have in my view. In this case, it's only the continent, but later on, if I want to add, let's say, the country or something like that, I need to keep that number aggregated at that granularity. So I'm going to exclude the days because I don't want to aggregate by the days. I only want to aggregate by my dimensions, but not my days. I want to have the total aggregation for the whole period. So that's why I'm using an exclude. If you are not familiar with level data calculations, please check that out. That's a very cool feature and very useful in Tableau. So for my dimensions that I have, I'm going to, this is the kind of calculation that I'm going to do. I'm going to find the difference of the current month compared to the previous month, and I'm going to subtract 1 to have the actual difference in percentage values, right? So I'm going to create that. I'm going to, well, I'm going to bring it over here to the labels, and that is going to assign, that is going to bring these to my view. I'm going to change the properties of this field to be a percentage with 2 decimals. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it with no decimals. And in all data points, you're going to see the same value there, because remember, this is a level data calculation, and remember that we are aggregating by continent, not by day. So let me fix this a little bit. Let me show this only in the line and at the end of the line. And that's it. So now I know that in Africa, this got worse by 10%, as you can see. Asia, very, very bad, 236% of more cases this month. That's terrible. Europe actually got a little better, -3, so that's good. Everybody else got worse, so that's not very encouraging to see. Okay, so that's my labels. Now let's add a little bit of color to this to enhance the visual, right? I'm going to create a new calculated field that I'm going to use for applying the coloring that I want. Percentage difference month to date sign, and I will talk about this in a moment. So this is going to be my calculation, and all I'm going to do is, if the difference of this month, basically the label, is less than 0, that means that it decreased, which is good. That's what happened in Europe. Otherwise, we're going to say increase. We can consider here the 0 if there was an equal number, but that's going to be very rare, and if you want to do it, just go ahead, please, but I'm just not going to stop to do that kind of validation here. I'm going to click OK, and now I'm going to bring this to the colors. And now you see that you have decrease in blue and increase in orange by default. I'm going to change that. Now it's easier to see that the red lines is when you have the cases increasing month over month, while the green one, in this case, is only 1. There is a an actual decrease of the cases, which is good. Let me go back and change these to so now I have my colors and now I have my labels. Let me color my labels just to match the mark color. I'm going to put them a little bold and there. Okay, cool. So that's closer to what I want. Let me edit this axis a little bit to I don't want to see the 0 there. I just want to start by 1 and the end is going to be automatic, and that's better. Now I'm not going to have like 0 or -1 because these are days, and the end date is going to accommodate automatically. So let me hide this label here, and in the sheet name I'm just going to add this description. But I also need to show somewhere the months that my users are going to be looking at. So we need to create another calculator field for that. It's going to be a label for the current month, and it's very simple. It's going to be the month concatenated with a space and then concatenated with a year. I'm going to duplicate this one, edit, basically the same thing, just the previous month, click OK, and now I'm going to add this I'm going to add it as a detail over here, and then I'm going to add this one as a detail over here. Actually, no, I'm just going to replace that here with the last month. I have the last month on the axis of my last month and the current month here. So now if I come to the title, I can add the label for my current month. I'm going to add versus the label for the last month. I'm going to make this not bold. I'm going to move it over to 10 and Tableau regular. That's better. I'm going to apply, and there I have it. So April 2021 versus March 2021. Okay, finally I'm going to sort this because I want to see the countries, the continents with the highest count of cases reported this month at the top. So I'm going to come here to the continent field. I'm going to sort it by field, descending, cases month to date. This is my field, sum, and as you can see, Asia, Europe, South America, North America, Africa, and Oceania. That's my ranking of new cases reported the current month. I have this exactly the way I want it. I'm looking at my current month, my previous month, all the comparison. I'll have all my labels with the changes, the trend, with the running sum. So I'm going to say that this part is finished. So I'm going to add a name to this, running sum of cases content trend. Now we need to build the second part of this visual, and I probably can use this same visual as a base for that. So I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to bring now the location here to start looking at this. There are a lot of countries here, so this is something that is going to be very hard to look like this, but this is not what I want. So I'm going to take these two guys from here. I'm also going to take the date because I don't need to see that in my axis. And then I'm going to add the cases month to date, the current cases, and I'm going to sort this to see actually the countries sorted by continent, and that's okay, that's good. So now I want to see only the top 5 by cases reported. So I need to pick for each one of the continents, I need to pick the top 5. So for that, there are multiple ways to do it. The way that I want is by using the rank function and filter by that. So I'm going to create a rank here, a quick table calculation is going to be a rank, and then I'm going to edit the table calculation because default is not going to fit my purpose here in this case. So I want to see a rank descending, and the competition I want to switch it over to unique. In case I have a tie, I want to see a unique rank there, and I want to choose the location in this case because I'm going to be sorting out by country. So as you can see, I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and then when I come to Europe, then it's going to reset because I also have the continent there in my view. So that is what I want. The label, if I cancel this, the label is going to remain the total cases because that's what I have here in my label, but that's okay because I don't need to see this. I'm going to use this as a filter, and I'm only going to use my top 5 to apply. Okay, and this rank is going to be dynamic, so every time the months change and the cases are reported, this rank is going to be updated in the backend. I don't need to come back and fix this anytime. So now I see my continents, and I see my countries for each one of the continents. I'm going to see the top 5 countries with the most cases reported on the current month, and that is what I want to see in this visual. Now I want to look at the comparison of this total versus the previous month. So let's bring my cases last month to date also to here and see how that looks. Let me add the measure values now to the columns. I'm going to remove everybody else from here. I only care about the cases month to date and the cases last month to date. Everybody else is going away. I don't care about that. So this is what I have. It's kind of messy. Let me remove my labels. And okay, now I want to do sort of a comet chart. So I'm going to change my marks here. Instead of bars, I'm going to choose line. And then I'm going to bring my measure names to the path. And what that is going to do is going to create a data point for each one of the measures that I have. This is cases last month, and this case is month to date in the case of India, right? So now in this line, I can see the actual difference from one month to the other. You can see that there was a very big difference in India, a very big one as well in Turkey, though not as big as India, and then you have a smaller one, other greater than the others, but that's how I want to see the change, right? The actual change, and be able to see which countries changed the most. I want to add some coloring here, and the color is going to be the same that I use in my previous sheet. If it got worse, I want red. If it got better, I want blue. So I'm going to use the same field that I use as a KPI. I'm going to bring it over to color, and now I'm going to see in red all those countries that increased, and in light blue all the countries that decrease. As you can see, the trend today is very bad for at least these top countries for each one of the continents. Only Brazil got slightly better, Italy in Europe, Holland, Mexico over here, and pretty much everybody else got worse, which is not good. Particularly India. If you look at India, it's a huge difference from this month to the previous one. And if you look at the news, you'll see that India is in the greatest crisis I think we've had since the pandemic started 1 year ago. So this is a reflection of that. Now we also want to see the labels, right? I'm interested in looking at the actual difference in percentage. You can see the difference in numbers here and also in the tooltip. And you can see India last month to date, from March 1st to March 26th, had almost 100,000 cases, and today on the same period over 5 million cases. So that's crazy. That's a very big difference. But the numbers are there, you can see those, but I want to see the percentage change. So for that, we are going to use the same field that we created, the percent difference month over month. We're going to bring it over here, and since we're using a level of detail calculation for that, if you remember, let me bring this one over here. I mentioned this was going to work because this is going to aggregate by all the dimensions that I have in my view except the days, which are not even here. So this is going to work the same way it did in this sheet right here. So I'm going to edit this label. I'm going to only show the line ends at the end of the line. I'm also going to make it match the colors, bold, just a little bit of formatting there. And now you see that the blue ones, the ones that go better, are going to be at the end of the line, which is the left in this case, because they went from greater to lowest because they decreased, and the end of the line in the red ones are going to be on the right because they went from lower cases to a higher count. So keep that in mind. I think that is even helpful here when we're looking at this kind of visual. So what else can we do here? We can use the percentage as well to highlight the lines so they are not all the same width. So we can use this field to actually use as a size as well. And this is going to work well. Now you're going to see even more the difference between India and Turkey and other countries. But this is going to be kind of problematic with the cases that decreased, because since these are negative, the better you got one month after the other, the thinner is going to be your line because the number is going to be smaller, mathematically smaller. So if you have Brazil, for example, that decreased by 13%, and you had other countries like Vanuatu here, for example, that decreased 50%, Vanuatu is going to be thinner than Brazil, because mathematically minus 50 is smaller than minus 13. So we may have to add something here to this one. Let me duplicate this because I don't want to mess with my labels. I'm going to add this. I'm going to see, let's name this like absolute, and let's do an absolute calculation of this entire thing. Let me save it, and now if we replace the size for this new field, now we're going to see that Vanuatu is going to be thicker than Brazil. It's very hard to see because there is a small data point there, but that's going to be better for us. And you can actually see it here between Italy and Brazil. It's a small difference, but you can see it there. So keep that in mind. You may want to change this to an absolute value to accommodate the proper width and the actual change. So I think this is good enough. I like how this looks. Let me also add the months label here, the label for the current month at the details, the label for the last month as well, so they pick up here in my title. And I think this is good. So let's go and create our dashboard. Let me change the format here to be something a little bit wider. Maybe this one is going to fit. And I'm going to bring a horizontal with the shift press so it gets floating. I'm going to edit the size of this container to match the size of my sheet, my dashboard in this case, 1366 by 768. I'm going to put it at 00. And now I have my container. And over there I'm going to bring my trend, my running trend, and this one. Okay, that looks good. Let me come here, get this tile here, collapse this, and there. Okay, now I'm going to make this to fit the entire view. This is fine, and this I'm going to make it fit the entire view as well. I'm going to give it a little bit of air so they can breathe a little bit. They have space between one and the other. And actually here, you know, I don't need to have the continent here as well, so I'm going to hide it there, because since the sorting is going to be the same now, I will have my continent here as the header, and then I will have the breakdown, and this will be sort of like a continuity, right? So for that I'm going to format this. I'm going to remove the column dividers. I'm the one I want to see the column dividers, so at the end they kind of, you know, it's like you can see the actual continuity. And I'm going to do this one the same. Good. I also need to change the name of this sheet to match what I want to see. One for remote change in new cases by top 5 countries. April 2021 versus March 2021 to date. And that's it. I mean, that's the main part is here. You can add legends to this. You can add as many things as you think are necessary. I had legends. I had all the stuff in my original dashboard. I'm just not going to spend time doing that. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.